Okay, so I want to start by explaining variables just with a very simple example. Maybe probably even trivial, because you probably wouldn't have to use variables for this, but it proves the point. So let's say we want to work out the volume of a cylinder. Okay, so this is a cylinder, and we have dimensions for how big the cylinder is. So we've got a diameter, 2.15 meters, and then a length, and let me just put in here meters. We've got a length of 3.11 meters, and we want to work out the volume of this cylinder. So what we could do in MATLAB is we could just type it out in the command window. So for now, I'm actually going to close that. I'm going to close the editor window, and we'll just do everything in the command window. Okay, so the first thing that maybe we want to do is, if we want to work out the volume of the cylinder, we first need to work out the cross-sectional area of this circle, and then multiply it by the height. So volume is equal to area times length. Okay. And so the first thing that we should do is try and work out the area. And we could do that by saying, well, what is the area? The area of a circle is pi times the diameter, and the diameter is 2.15 meters. And then let's square that, and we're dividing by 4. Okay, and we get an answer of 3.6305 meters squared. And then we can go and multiply that by the length, and the length is 3.11 meters. So we could say answer times 3.11. Because we know answer is a placeholder that stores the answer to the area, if we just multiply the length by answer, then we get the final volume. So the final volume of the cylinder should be 11.2909 meters cubed. Okay, so pretty simple. We haven't done anything fancy. We have used this fact that ANS, ANS, is somehow a placeholder for a value that we can manipulate later on. And what we really want to do is we want to try and abstract this to make it more clear for us, and we can do that by making variables. So now I want to do the same calculation, but I want to use variables, right? So answer, ANS, is a built-in variable in MATLAB that MATLAB uses when you want to just give it a quick calculation, and it must return it to somewhere, so it returns it in this variable called answer. So what we could do instead is we could make a variable to represent the area, right? So I want to create a variable called A. Let me create the variable now, call it A, and say that the area A is equal to pi times, well, it's actually this. It's actually this over here. And when I push enter, then now I've got A. So A, MATLAB now tells me that A is equal to 3.6305 meters squared actually. But it's not A and S. Now we've assigned the value of pi times 2.15 squared divided by 4, and we've put it into this A. So if I type A, then it just gives me back the result. If I look in the workspace, I now have a variable named A that represents my area. Okay, so we're not done. We want to find the volume. What we could also do is we could say L. Let L represent the length of the cylinder, and that's 3.11. If I push enter, then I've created a variable for the length, and I've called it L. And now if I want to find V, I just multiply A times L. So I'll say A times L. And because I've created variables for A, and I've created variables that represent the area, and I've created a variable that represents the length, this to me makes a lot more sense. I can read this, and physically it makes it's physically significant to me, because to me this is area times length. So if I push enter, then I work out the number, and I store that in V. So again, if I look in the workspace, I've got now A, L, and V. So I just wanted to say one thing. The way that we create variables is by using this equal sign. Okay, so if we use the equal sign, then we can create a variable. So we can create a variable called x1 and say it's I don't know, -3, and then we can create a variable called x2 and say it's 5. And when we multiply the two, x1 times x2, it's really just multiplying -3 times 5, which should be -15. So that's the first bit of variables that I want to show you. In the next few videos, I'll explain some restrictions on how we can and we can't use variables.